Hey guys, Charlie with Staple. Today we're going to be doing a how-to video on how to install a 6x7 Staple MTMS Fender Rack Bracket. These steps will apply whether you're installing a 6x7, a 6x13, or a 48x10 Staple Fender Rack Bracket. As Bruce, if you come over, you'll see we've got all the parts laid out from the 6x7 kit. We've got our brace, thread plate, slide plate plus hanger, our 6x7 molly, our rubber spacer, the hardware that comes with the kit. We're going to be doing a clamp install today, so we're going to be utilizing our clamp kit. If you are doing a track install for a Toyota, you'll receive these track nuts, but we won't be using these today. And then the tools that you'll need. Each kit does come with 2 of our T30 security torque bolt heads, an open-ended 9/16 wrench, a 9/16 socket, and a 1/2 inch socket. So let's dive right into it. Step 1 is choosing the position of your thread plate. We're going to be doing a position 1 for our install today. So the next step to installing the bracket is to prepare your stability bolts. I'm familiar with the F250s and I've done a lot of these installs, so I know which stability bolts I'm going to be utilizing. But what you'll be considering is, depending on the place of your bracket, wherever you place it along the bed rail, you'll want to look at the interior shape of the truck bed, and you'll choose the length stability bolt that makes the most sense for where you're placing the bracket inside the truck. The next step there is to pre-thread your locking nuts, and so we just work these all the way down on the bolt, and then we go ahead and we pre-place them onto the brace into the 2 stability bolt holes. That's 1. And that's 2. So now we've got our stability bolts prepped. The next step is to place the bracket onto the bed rail and go ahead and install your clamp. The next step to installing your Staple MTMS bracket is to install the bracket with the clamp onto the bed rail. We do include different size rubber strips, and we'll install these rubber strips on the top of the clamp. I tend to find myself on these F250s installing the thickest rubber. That tends to be the best fit, but you'll just have to explore it with your vehicle and see what works best for you. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and connect the bracket to the bed rail now. We've chosen where we want our bracket to exist along the bed rail. So all you do is you go ahead and put your clamp on the inside of the bed rail and thread your clamp bolts. Okay, so once you've got your clamp bolts hand tightened, you're going to take your 1/2 inch socket, and you're going to go ahead and tighten them down. One tip is to always put pressure onto the thread plate on the bed rail. This ensures that you get a nice level install. Alright, so the next step is to go ahead and tighten down your stability bolts. You do not want to over torque your stability bolts, as this can cause your bracket to actually lift and pull the bed rail. You just want those just a little bit more than hand tight. We do include rubber strips, rubber squares that you'll place on the inside of the bed rail. This is just a little bit of protection for your truck bed. So I go ahead and I get that hand tight. So I go ahead and get each bolt about hand tight. And sometimes with these rubber squares, depending on where they go in the bed rail, they'll be placed at kind of off-kilter positions. So I just get these nice and hand tight, just like this. I'll use 2 hands. And then I move my locking nuts down. I'll do a light turn with my socket wrench. And then with my open-ended wrench, I'll torque down my locking nuts. And the core foundation of your MTMS bracket is now mounted onto your truck bed rail. Out of the box from the factory, your hanger bolts will still need one last little torquing, so go ahead and make sure you double check those hanger bolts. The next step that I like to do is I like to get the top bolts on the molly panel. And the reason for this is that allows me to look at my positioning, whether or not I want to go with a vertical or a 20 degree once the bracket is placed on the truck. So as you can see, if it's placed in about a 20 degree, you will be able to get a little bit tighter, closer to the truck. But in a vertical position, this gives you more exposure of your slide plate. Maybe you're planning on mounting accessories on the outside of the truck, and that's something that you want to consider. So we're going to be doing a vertical mount today. So now that we have our molly panel fully installed to the hanger and slide plate combination, what we'll want to do is a test fit with our rubber spacer. Our rubber spacer can be placed anywhere along the fender of the truck, wherever makes the most sense for when you're mounting your accessory or molly panel. In this case, we're going to go ahead and most likely install it right here. As you can see, on our molly panel, we have these knobs as well as these cutouts on the rubber spacer that allow for a kind of one-to-one connected fit. So it is nice when you can place it in that position, but I want you to keep in mind that if you're going to mount something, maybe you have something hanging really low on the vehicle, whatever accessory you're putting on, you can mount this down here and have it connect with your accessory. So you just really want to place this wherever makes the most sense. It is a customization that's available to you. So included in your kit, you're going to get a square of 3M PPF as well as a strip of double-sided 3M adhesive. Our rubber spacers are magnetic. On steel-bodied trucks, you'll be able to utilize that magnet if you choose, but on aluminum bodies like this Ford here, you can see the magnet's not going to work. So that's what the double-sided adhesive is for. So I'll show you how to do the install with that today. So if we're looking to place our spacer right here, to install the spacer, I often grab a dry erase marker and I'll go ahead and mark at least 2 sides of the spacer itself, on the top and on the bottom. This gives me a good visual of where my spacer needs to be. Prepare my 3M PPF. I'll get a visual over the lines. I remove the lines and I place my 3M PPF onto the truck. The purpose of the PPF is to protect your vehicle from any rubbing, scratching, and that allows you to remove, so you're able to adhesive your rubber spacer to the vehicle, but you can also remove it at any time without causing any damage to the truck. So I will usually check my test fit one more time, make sure I like the placement of my PPF. Then I install the double-sided adhesive on the back of the rubber spacer. And then I will often put the spacer against the bracket or accessory first and then move it towards the vehicle before getting contact. Our spacer is now installed on an aluminum body vehicle. final step to finish installing our bracket. The final step to installing the bracket is placing our panhead bolts in the top between the slide plate and the thread plate. I like to choose the bolt holes that are furthest back in the provided slots. I will apply mild pressure to the bracket on the face of the bracket to get it tight against our spacer, and I will hand torque our bolts down. And you have now installed a 6x7 STAPLL MTMS Fender Rack Bracket onto the side of your truck. Alright, so we've now installed our 6x7 Fender Rack Bracket from STAPLL onto the side of this F-250. Before you go out off-roading or in between trips, of course, like all accessories, check your hardware, make sure things are tight and ready for the trip ahead. Be sure to hop on the YouTube and watch more of our install videos and more of our videos that show the product in action. Also, go to staple.com or contact us at info@staple.com for any questions that you have. We're here to help you with your install, and we're here to help you get outside and enjoy your